Hello, my name is Brandy Wilkerson, and I'm a non-representational artist from Arkansas, USA. Today's January 11th, 2025. Background: I was an 80s kid, so I was raised in the greatest era of inspiration, especially of art and music, in my opinion. My mother was an art educator, had a master's degree in art education, so I was naturally exposed to all genres of art in different forms and different mediums. As I got older, I chose a different route away from art and more in customer service and business management in my early work years. That was before motherhood. I've been married to the love of my life for more than 25 years and have 2 children. Raising my girls, I worked to find a way to be available to them. I became an entrepreneur in the late 90s, selling vintage clothing online. That developed into reworking damaged and vintage heirloom pieces, into new hats and accessories and reworked jewelry of my own designs, and over time those designs gained recognition and awards in millinery arts and was very encouraging to me, and they were worn all over the world. My preferred medium of creation during that time, or expression really, was photography and styling to create portraiture art. I worked with phenomenally talented creative teams to create editorials during those years, and our work was published in over 75 international magazines like 360 or Dark Beauty. My creative work grew from these designs into a costume line, and headgear predominantly. I have been so blessed to have my work grace the heads of many well-known performers and musicians and talented artists over the years. Some of my favorites to work with was Sean Paul and his team with Sia for the song Dynamite they did. I have headgear that I created for the musician Simrit. She's amazing. And then another favorite time was when I worked for Becky Lynch of WWE. I will always love doing these costume pieces. I still have an active Etsy shop and have new designs I put in there monthly. Now, during the pandemic, when we all had to shift, it was a natural shift for many of us in the entertainment industry, and that's where I was working at the time with my costume. So then I had to pivot into fine art and multisensory sculpture, assemblage work, and really found that I really enjoyed it. I've had multiple shows and exhibits yearly, and I am an active member of a gallery here in Northwest Arkansas, Phoenix Arts, and I serve in several art groups locally. Being raised by an art educator who was my mother, she's one of the most talented artists I know, really inspiring to me. I think that this impacted me and how I see the world or create art in the way that being around a variety of art and being exposed to different art mediums and styles growing up was pivotal. Being a model or a subject for some of those projects was not only really fun growing up, but an educational experience, like hands-on what it means to be wrapped in plaster, have your face covered in that plaster with straws up your nose, and sit for 2 hours while your mother gets a mold of you. These were hilarious and fun times for me growing up. And also seeing the finished product and seeing it sitting in a senior show or different exhibits afterwards was fascinating to me. That early exposure to art really allowed me to see and understand the process between how art is conceived, produced, and then presented. When you go for your 16th birthday on your first flight and you travel to the Dallas Museum of Art, that impacts you for life. My family loved musicals and movies growing up. A particular thing that I loved was the costumes in some of those musicals. I loved fairy tales and theater. I may have been partially influenced by that in my costume design. Of course, I loved movies like Star Wars and sci-fi films. That was a big influence. And I've always been an avid reader. I love nonfiction and stories of the unexplained. We had a lot of hardship growing up, and I learned to rely on my faith early on, too. I think my deep faith in God helped me growing up to get through a lot of things, and I hope that it's a principal theme continuously in my work. Even today, you'll see evidence of hope, positive directions, a mindset for a better future, especially in these last days here where we encounter gets harder and harder circumstances. We need to have a louder and louder voice of hope, especially in our art and our messages. Some of my biggest influences, of course, my mother would be my greatest influence. She was my teacher of all mediums. I am highly inspired by architects as well, past and current, like Ricardo Bofill, Frank Lloyd Wright, for example. I've been told that I have a very specific mid-century type theme to a lot of my work. I also love Louise Nevelson. Recently, much of my influence comes because I'm an avid reader, and a lot of information that I like to take in from authors that I've been currently reading, like the Harbinger series by Jonathan Cahn. I love Thomas Horn, Bill Salas, Michael Lake. I love early century authors like Olaf Stapleton, who wrote Starman, a very pivotal book that opened my mind while I was reading it alongside scripture, was life-changing for me. What I'm focusing on right now, I'm working on a new series called Liminal Space. It's a combined different mediums from painting, automat blocks, and modular units, which is a type of wall sculpture assemblage that I do. It's a joy for me to be an active participant in the Artomat Artist Program. That's an Artomat franchise. It's a very cool and unique retro system of dispensing art systems. They used to be cigarette dispensing machines, but now they dispense art, and they're affordable little pieces to get into hands of all art collectors, and I contribute to that regularly. My biggest challenge of being an artist, for me, it's really selling of my artwork. Sculpture and multisensory especially. I have not had an issue selling costume or even when I sold vintage clothing like I do with my artwork. I know I'm not alone in this. It's a struggle of many, and the art market is difficult, especially when you're creating non-representational art or something that really doesn't relate to anything, because I like to continue to keep my work very abstract and concentrating on things yet seen, if that makes sense. What advice I would give to my younger self? I don't think my younger self would like my advice, because it would be more like enjoy the journey, or it's about the process, not necessarily with the reward that you expect though. Look for the benefits other than monetary. Some of the most rewarding things that you will get out of your art career will be the relationships that you make along the way. Have I ever tried unconventional mediums or techniques? That's funny because that's all I try to do. This is what I strive for. I've always liked to do something that I have not seen done personally, so that I have the joy of the experiment. And also it challenges me in the way of engineering, especially when it came to costume design years ago. I had to find a way to make it work on my own. Multisensory sculptures are especially fun in this area for me. If I am painting a non-representational or abstract, I like to avoid the usual methods and try something different, or at least with a different tool that's not meant for painting, and see how that interacts. Do I listen to music or have any other type of background noise while I work, or do I prefer complete silence? I have to listen to music all the time when working. I prefer a certain melodic soft chill or synthwave. It kind of keeps with the rhythm of my heart and helps me get into the flow. Silence stifles my creativity. I can't have that. I gotta have a rhythm. What is the best reaction someone's had to my artwork? With that question comes to mind two specific artists who have blessed me so much. One, Michelle. She's a fashion designer that I really admire, and she blessed me with her reactions to my work in a way that she was able to see and hear the message of hope and see it in my symbolic language. The other is a fine artist and sculptor, Daniel, Canadian artist, who's impacted me greatly by being able to truly see my work as unique and set apart from others. In his words, this is what makes a revolutionary true artist. These two responses have made a huge impact on me and still encourage me to this day. What do you hope people will take away from your artwork? I want them to be encouraged, looking at some unknown something that they don't quite understand. Just stay with it a little bit longer and trust God's higher power that Jesus offers as being here with us on earth to be our guide along it. And along those unfamiliar and difficult paths ahead, it may be tumultuous, but hope never disappoints. Thank you so much for allowing me to share a little bit about myself and my journey with you. And you can find me on Instagram at Brandi Wilkerson Studio, and that's BRANDE Wilkerson Studio, or Facebook at VVB Design Studio. Or my website is brandiwilkerson.com. And remember, that's Brandi with an E. Thank you.